All right. I am back. I actually had some updates to run on the computer, and I've plugged in my cable for network. So from what I can see, it seems to be working all right. I'm not dropping any frames, so hopefully that will remain that way. I'm just going to wait a little bit just to make sure everything's kind of running okay. And yeah, I'll probably explain again what I did with my action. So basically, I did a shoot today, a fairly fast one. Did a Flambient. Some of the shots are with a single ambient frame. Some of them have 3 ambient frames. So what I do basically in Lightroom, I process all the files, add them to a collection, group them up, and once everything's kind of pre-edited in Lightroom, I open them in Photoshop. So currently I have one file open, so the other files I'll be dropping in as I keep editing. But once they're open, I run my actions. Ideally, what I want to do, I group all the images, for example, that have 3 ambient frames and 3 flash frames, and I'll run action. So I run a batch action, and it's going to go through all the images, apply those settings, and then I'll save these and open any other ones where I have only 1 ambient, 1 flash, and run the action that deals with that. So it puts me kind of at the beginning spot where I have the frames like the ones here. So if you haven't seen, I've already tried doing a little stream maybe 10-15 minutes ago, but my connection wasn't stable, so I had to restart. So this file here, I already made some adjustments while I was doing my previous stream. So I'm just going to continue with that, and then when I open the next one, I'll probably go over again about the actions I use, basically, and try and explain a little bit what's happening behind the scene. So right now I've basically set up my my flash frames. I think that looks pretty decent, nothing major. The ambient is applied with 50% gray via the 50% gray mask. And I have my ambient curves that I created, and I usually like to do an S curve. It works quite well actually on the ambient if it's fairly bright. And then if we need, we can paint in some of the areas that might need a little bit more ambient or a little less, depending. So where the lights are, I like to drop it a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the color and so on. And in all honesty, this one doesn't really need much. So my ambient kind of blend, I would say, is mostly done. I'll go to my folder for color correction. I've got hue saturation here. I'll add the color range. I'm just going to desaturate the ceiling. One thing worth noting is that the mirror typically will have a little bit of a color tint to it. So a lot of times you'll notice that mirror has a green tint. So sometimes when you make selections, or if you want to keep it very natural, you might just leave ceilings in, or actually anything inside a mirror untouched in terms of color correction. But since this is real estate, I'm just going to drop the saturation around -40, 50. I'll add it into a group and put a black mask so it doesn't desaturate the walls. And this is the problem typically with smaller bathrooms. It's very difficult to operate a flash in there. without creating too many hotspots. So we have a couple spots here and there, but to be honest, I'm not really bothered about it too much. For the purposes of an estate agent, this looks pretty decent. Alt backspace, so I can fill it with the foreground color. And looking at it, it might be a little bit too desaturated, so I'm just going back off on that, maybe to around -25. And I have here color layer, which I might use here because we have a bit of a discoloration, I think, where we had the flash. I'm just going to gently paint it in. Nothing too crazy, just to kind of even it out. And same here, got a little stuff left after the flash. Or we can do what Peter does and get the ambient layer, copy it and change to color. But in this situation, for me, I have already prepared layers via my action, so that's all good here. And then I have fixes, which I can use for any fixes. So what I typically like to do in bathrooms is remove reflections. And I'm looking at these. Okay, to be honest, I'm going to leave that as it is. But let's just fix a little bit color here in the corner. It's a little bit. And as you can see, I'm very broad. I'm not too bothered about it. It's really not super noticeable. Okay, going back to fixes. In bathrooms, I usually like to remove reflections from the lights. So I usually just remove these so it's not distracting. I like the healing brush tool, although you have to be very careful near areas of high contrast because it's going to smudge everything. So in that case, I'm using the clone stamp tool near the edge, and then I basically blend it in again with a healing brush. Or if you're super lazy, you could just use the remove tool, and that's going to do the work as well. And then we have little reflections here and there. And again, it's up to you depending on how much time you have or how much you're being paid. If you want to really work on these and remove, those type of things here. They're just annoying me a little bit. That's, part from high-end editing. And sometimes I cannot just help myself. Let's see, it looks like, yeah, the connection is pretty decent. I think I'll just always have to stay on cable. Okay, I'm not worried about that. That would take a little bit more time to deal with. I'm not willing to invest the time into this one. So, yeah, I'm going to follow Peter's style, and I'm going to flatten it. But before that, I just want to make sure. Oh, here we go. We have a sensor dust. Yeah, before that, I just want to make sure I'm not anywhere in the photograph. And I think this is me. You see, it's very. So usually what I like to do, go into my flash frames and then turn them on and off and see which one. Okay, so this one I think is the one. And I think there's still a little bit of a reflection there. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's just me. I think it's the smudged. Yeah, looks like just the smudged mirror. All right, let's flatten it And I'm going to save it. And let's open the next one. So basically I was late for this photo shoot. For some reason I had it down for 3 p.m. and while I was at a different photo shoot, I received a call to ask me where I am. Fortunately, the shoot I was at, the property was vacant, and it was close enough, so I was able just to drop everything, run to this appointment, and then come back to the one I was doing earlier later on. And that worked out pretty okay. So yeah, anyway, because of that, I had to shoot everything with lights on, just do a fast shoot. Okay, since I've got this one open, so I was saying that I open everything in Lightroom, obviously as layers in Photoshop, so obviously everyone knows about that. But once these are open and run my actions, I'm going to change some of my actions. There's some stuff that I very often do now that is just annoying. So I've got here my 3A, 3F, which basically means 3 ambient, 3 flash. And I also have 1A, 3F, which is 1 ambient, 3 flash. I probably should have one for 1 ambient, 1 flash as well, because that happens sometimes, if you have a small bathroom, you can probably just, not bathroom, bedroom, you can usually get away with that very easily. But in any case, basically this, let's go maybe with 3 ambient, 3 flash. So it rearranges some of the layers and then creates luminosity mask for darks, and then applies it, adds some feathering, I think right on the mask. So within properties, I think if you go here, you have feathering under masks. So that's where I add it. Then does the same for lights. Then merges it into an ambient. So that's what I was saying. I'll probably get my action back to the point where it leaves it at 3 ambient frames, so I can still amend them if I need, or adjust curves separately on each one, because unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. It works, this action works like 90% of time, but sometimes if you shoot something a little bit too bright or too dark, you might run into a little bit of a problem. And if everything is now merged into one ambient, obviously that creates a little bit of a problem. So I'm going to make an action where it doesn't merge it, but rather puts it maybe into a group, so I can make amendments if I need. At least that gives me a little bit more control. So after that, it basically grabs my, I think it's around, rearranges stuff, adds like a curves adjustment layer to my ambient, because I usually add an S curve. But below that, we have our base flash. So it basically makes a group, puts the base flash, and then it makes a copy of it and puts it in darken mode. And then there's a left and right flash frames, which then the action creates a 50% gray mask on one of them, and then leaves everything else on the bottom. This is actually, this particular image was 3 ambience and 3 flash, so there's nothing underneath, but very often I'll have more flashes that fill different areas, so they would usually just stay on the bottom. Sometimes it's my light layers if I shoot my lights separately, and sometimes it's window views and so on, so then I can just grab them and put them at the top where I need them and so on. But this is basically the action I use. I also mentioned my previous stream, I probably will change Lumencia into a channels luminosity layers just within Photoshop, just because Lumencia is a little bit slow. Again, I'm trying to save a little bit of time with actions, and using Lumensia unfortunately creates a little bit of a delay for me. So I might as well just go for the regular channels option of creating luminosity masks. So yeah, that's about it. So let's go here. Let's switch off the ambient for a moment. I've got my gray, 50% gray. The way I shoot it is first I shoot one from behind the camera that lights up the whole room. Then I shoot the left hand side flash and then right hand side flash. So if I grab my black brush, I can paint myself out on the left hand side. And then I swap to my white brush and I'll paint out myself on the right hand side. So that gives us the basic here. We have a little bit of a light spot here, but this is what we can use our flash and darken mode. So that's probably what we're going to use in a moment. So let's enable that. And actually, that's another thing I need to check. I prefer to have my darken actually on the bottom and the normal one at the top. And I would probably by default disable the normal mode. Okay, so if I turn it on and off, you can see kind of what it does. Without it, you can see we have quite a few quite hot spots. In some situations might be all right, but here for the most part, I really want to get rid of that a little bit, just to make it a little bit more even. And then if needed, obviously, I'll just lighten everything up using usually curves, but also brightness, contrast, adjustment layer works quite well. Okay, so that looks decent. And now if I enable the normal one, you can see we have the front lit up quite well and the back of the room is a little bit more darkness. So sometimes if you have shadows, let's say like on the bed here, if you are shooting for real estate, you might want to add a little bit of flash to kind of lighten up those areas. You'll find out most estate agents prefer fully lit up shots. They're not really bothered too much about creating mood or ambience. So that's what I'm going to do here, actually. I'm just going to light it up a little bit. And let's enable our ambient. And to be honest, I'm just going to drop the opacity here a little bit first. Let's add a little bit of curves. I like an S-curve, but this one will have to also increase maybe midtones and highlights here a little bit because it's a little bit dark. So that's better. Still, I think a little bit dark, but that's all right. Let's go to our hue saturation adjustment layer that is created with my action. So it's always sitting there at like 90% of time. I'm going to use it very often. I think the main use is for the ceiling. So that's usually what I will target with my color range tool. Okay. As you can see, there's a lot of kind of yellow orange reflections. So because the walls in the apartment are orange, they are affected as well. So we'll have to double mask that. So I'm dropping saturation by around 30. Let's put it into a group and then put a black mask. Using my keyboard shortcuts, I basically add it quite fast. And then I'm just going to use polygonal lasso tool. Close that off. The same here. Press D to reset the colors, Alt backspace to fill it with white. Okay. And I might, let's see, I might need to grab a, you see I didn't do a virtual copy of the darkest layer. So our outside is a little bit blown out. To be honest, I'm not too much bothered about it, but I think for the purposes of the video here, it will be pretty decent if I can maybe make a little bit of a better view. Before that, I'm just gonna sample the color here of the duvet, and we have a little bit of discoloration here, so I'm just gonna gently paint with that color with the brush just to remove that. My action creates basically a folder with color fixes, so that's where I have my hue saturation, and also creates a separate layer in color blending mode. So I don't have to create it every time, so that kind of saves time. And okay, give me a second. Let me see if I can get into Lightroom and pick up a frame for our windows. Let's see. All right. Okay, this is the shot from earlier. So we are here. Let's open this up and let's see. Okay, we have that. So let's create a virtual copy. Go to the develop module. Going to drop a little bit of highlights. And that's very blue, so let's get the temperature up, 5, 9. Okay, I guess that's decent. Let's hope that's gonna work okay. So let's just open it in Photoshop. So I do have a keyboard shortcut I created to duplicate layer. So let's move it to 883, I think is the correct one. Yeah. So this one we can close, this one we can close. All right, so I might leave okay, let's add a black mask. I'm actually going to use pen tool. I was thinking about leaving the roof on top of the balcony off, but I guess I'm just going to leave it. One. Let's do the other one. Control Enter so we can make it a selection, then Alt backspace to fill it with the foreground color, which is currently selected as white. At the same time, I'm going to press Control M, which is actually my keyboard shortcut, to create an adjustment layer instead of just applying curves. And I'm going to tab space to make it clip onto the underlying layer, and press Enter. So we have hue saturation, curves, which we can use to maybe work a little bit on the image here to make it a little bit prominent. And I guess we also have to do the reflection because it looks, unfortunately, totally out of place right now. It's very blue. Okay, I'm gonna move that a little bit, and the bottom one as well. Maybe like that. And let's copy curves. Okay. So anyway, let's replace this guy. But sometimes also what I like to do, so if you're doing basic adjustment of your curves, what we can do, we can also duplicate curves. And then let's make it brighter. Maybe that's a little bit too much contrast. So if I add it into a group and then hide it, what you can use is use your second curves to brighten up, for example, the foreground. So sometimes what happens is you'll find that the background is quite bright, but the foreground, for example, might be darker. So in that case, we can let me just brighten up a little bit more here, just to give an example. So as you can see, when I turn it on and off, we kind of brighten up the foreground. And again, it doesn't matter in this particular situation here, but in general, that's kind of a trick I like to use. Also, another thing we could do is, let's grab this polygonal lasso tool. We could just make the selection around here and then add curves again and make this one brighter. So yeah, probably we should also do this side here. And cool. Okay, let me make a rough selection around the sky here. So I'm just gonna go around. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have a problem with the building here. We'll see. The building is very similar to the sky, the gray sky in the back. But we'll see what happens. Okay, and then this one. So I'm just basically making a rough selection around this sky. Oops, that's the problem. I didn't add to selection. That's where the pen tool would be much better. But nevertheless, we're arrived here. So I have an action here, hopefully. Sky swap. Let's play that. Basically, it creates a copy of the blue channel, reverses the selection, deletes everything around the selection, then reverse it again. And now we're adding curves. So obviously we're trying to eliminate the sky. Anything in black obviously is not going to be added on. So we have quite a lot of clouds here. So we have to basically clip these as much as possible. So this looks decent. I think we're going to cut off parts of the building and so on. You don't have to be like super aggressive with it, but it helps. I still find it that it's pretty decent even if you have some parts left here. They're not going to be extremely visible. Let's see, so it's around here. Something like that, press OK. And then, let's see, need to find the sky. Bear me 1 second. Let's select something from here. Maybe this one. All right, so it places the sky. I'm just gonna kind of put it maybe around here. Press enter and it places the sky there. Let's remove the link and we can maybe change the sky here. So if we zoom in, it doesn't look too bad, although we lost some details on the building. So it really depends how much time you want to spend on it. Obviously, if this would be a architectural photo shoot or anything like that, I would probably take much more time making a proper selection. Sometimes I like to use the color range as well and just select the sky that way. Worst case, you can always cut around. But yeah, anyway, I am just adjusting curves a little bit, so brighten it up a little bit so it's not sticking out too much. I think that looks decent enough. Let's put this guy in separate group here. Actually, the whole window. Okay. So I think, let's see, brightness. I'm gonna just increase the brightness a little bit. And let's see the outside, just to match it a little bit. Obviously, we're trying not to make the outside being darker than the inside, ideally, although, believe me, estate agents love very bright images all over. All right, that looks decent enough for me. Just gonna save it and let's grab next photo. And this is why Peter likes to flatten the layers. See, it's just reading the TIFF format. Although I must say it's reading the images from my portable drive right now, from like a small portable SanDisk. I like to have it with me on the go. And normally, to be honest, what I do is put the stuff that I need on my local drives, so it's not as slow. But yeah, I forgot about that. So here we are. Let's close that. So basically, these files that I've just finished, what I'll typically do at the end, I'll open all of them in Lightroom and I'll kind of make final adjustments there. I just find it quite easy having all of the images in the same place. Most of the time you can apply a preset, apply it to all of them, go through each one of them first and check if the exposure contrast is okay. And if it is, you know, you move on to the next one. And then after that, I run a pass where I fix the verticals. Okay, this was another small bathroom, quite an annoying one, to be honest. So let's try and oops, I've changed the opacity here. Let's try and see if we can get it look somewhat decent. I think it's going to be difficult with this one. Okay, I took one here for the ceiling for later on. And this was the door. Okay, so we have a little bit of a problem, but you should be able to work it out using the rest of the layers. Okay, let me first have a look at darken. Okay. Not the best, but not the worst. Let's see. Okay, let me cut out the whole thing first. See what we're dealing with here. Okay, that is bad. So what I'm going to do, let's just work on the ceiling here. So we're going to drop opacity. Yeah, around 40% seems decent enough. Still quite bright on that. Actually, I don't even know which one I prefer. Lighten might seem okay as well. Let's see. I hate small bathrooms. Okay, we're gonna have some work to do here. Right. First, let's add curves. I think this was shot at 12 millimeters. As I said, it's super annoying with the lights. I've got quite a bit of discoloration in the corners. So that's definitely something we need to look at. There's quite a bit of work needs to be done here. And this is what's annoying because it's such a small space that you almost feel like, man, it's really not worth to spend so much time on that. And in all honesty, I could just probably leave it like that and no one would really complain. I can almost guarantee. Let's preview, remove the preview. Okay, I think to add this part. Okay, let's not ponder on that too much. So let's drop. Yeah, to be honest, I think I'm gonna. There's quite a bit of color work I need to do anyway, so I'm just going to drop saturation to maybe -30. And I'm gonna use my color layer. So let's fix a couple of things here. Let's look at these doors. Okay, to be honest, we just need to fix really the top part, so I'm not too bothered about that. So let's sample the color of the door and just let's fix that hotspot there. Okay, that is decent enough. Okay, fix the green tint here. And then a little bit of a green tint in this corner. So as you can see, I'm very, using just the brush tool, soft brush tool very broadly. I'm not too bothered about being super accurate with it. This is the problem when you have walls, colored walls, really. Everything reflects, and especially in small spaces like that, it's just a mess. So the worst part is this one here. I don't even know how we arrived at the point where we have this wall desaturated like that. Not even desaturated, but it's more going towards yellows. So I'm just going to make selection around here. I don't even know 100% if I made a good selection here. I think I overshot it, so let's remove this part. Oops. Wait, I'm lost again. Goes here. So difficult to figure out the border. Okay, I think the color of the wall is basically the same as the other ones, so just gonna borrow that. I think that looks good enough to sell it. Right. The selection here. Just gonna use the white. It's that, and I think I'm gonna be pedantic, and I'm gonna go over the door frame as well. But as you can see, the selections I'm making are very broad. I'm not too accurate with it. All right, I think that's really enough. I've got some discolorations here, so I'm just gonna borrow the color. All right, let's go to our fixes layer. I've got some little dirt here. There's my favorite sensor dust, which means I need to clean my camera again. I think I'm going to just remove those light reflections here from something. Not sure where they came from, but they're a little bit distracting, so just going to drop them. And for the camera, we're definitely going to try out Remove Tool. And I have a big suspicion it's going to have a little bit of trouble with the door handle. So we probably just remove it, to be honest. Oh, I think it'll be easier that way than trying to reconstruct it. Yeah. It's not the best. Okay, I think that's good enough. I've spent too much time on this already, so let's flatten it, save it, and move to the next one. Hey, Peter. Sorry, just so your your comment. Night owls. Yeah, I'll probably stay for maybe another 20-25 minutes. Let's see. That's why I like to have all my frames opened before the stream to avoid having to open them one by one. But I had to do a reset of my computer, so I didn't want to waste time reopening all of them. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what these frames are. So this was shot, I think, a little bit too dark here. Let's see. Let's see what we can do. All right, so I think this was supposed to be a window. All right. So really what I should be doing is going back to Lightroom and basically brightening a couple of those frames. But I'm too lazy to do it now. So I'm just going to work with what I have. Okay, I might might use that just to remove those. So what I'm going to do, let's work with curves. Going to invert the mask. I'm just gonna brighten up that central area especially, which is darker, and actually should be brighter because it's where the light is coming from, really. And okay, that looks decent enough. Okay, the whole thing actually was was because of the ambient layer. So yeah, got too much ambient layer. So let's drop opacity here a little bit. Mix these two. All right. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'm adding a little bit ambient, so let's bring opacity on that brightening of the flash frame. Okay, why not? Let's work on color. So I'm just going to do color range on my hue saturation layer. Let's make a broad selection on the ceiling. So obviously we have the light casting orange, yellow light here, and I'm basically desaturating it, which makes the selection kind of very, very broad. But we're just going to, let's add it into a group, add a black mask, and for this one, why not, for a change of the tool, let's do pen tool. Only thing with pen tool is you have to manually move the canvas. With the polygonal lasso tool, you can just basically hold it at the edge and it's going to move the frame for you, which I like. But as you can see, I was able here with pen tool just move the point and align it much better with the ceiling. So definitely pen tool is much better for those things. Although I still find polygonal lasso tool a little bit faster for me. Okay, let's fill that with white. Yep, we have quite a few color problems. So I think what I am going to do is let's make a selection around the artwork. Probably this one. All right, maybe this one. To be honest, I'm not sure if I really need it, but since I'm already making selections, so I just want to make selection around the things that I don't really want to mess up when I'm changing the color of the wall. So I'm just creating boundaries. So at the moment, basically, I am selecting those things, but what I'm going to do after is just invert the selection, because this makes it easier. Anyway, this doesn't matter. Okay, I think I'll add more or less the TV here as well. Not even entirely sure we really need it, but I'm going to do it. So let's invert, Control-Shift-I. I've got my color layer selected. Let's pick a color of the wall that we want. So maybe something like this. And what I'm going to do is put the color underneath hue saturation. So if we cross over the what do you call it, ceiling, it doesn't really affect it. So that helps us here. Okay, I think it's good enough. I'm not gonna complain. It's looking decent. So let's see. Do we need any fixes? I know there's the bloody sensor dust somewhere around here, but not visible on this surface. So, okay, let's leave it. We have our windows, so I could potentially just avoid that. So let's try and do that. Let me use pen tool. Going to add curves. Just brighten it up a little bit in midtones and dark areas. Okay, so we make a TV. See, I think I have action for this. Let's see if it's gonna work. All right, it asks me to use the gradient tool. So the way I made it, basically, you kind of get the gradient from bright to dark, and usually what you want to do is basically drag it from the source of light down to the TV. Yeah, probably kind of end of the TV, but you can also work on the point here to kind of amend it. And once you add that, you basically continue the action, and now it's going to add the noise on the TV. So I might lower it maybe to 1. And then I think it sets fill at 90%. So that's it. Cool. Let's make a selection around the sky. So again, if I have buildings like that are super white and blending with the sky, you probably want to be a little bit more accurate on those if you want them to be left untouched. Let's do the sky swap. Okay, so we do have a problem. The action actually worked on the TV here instead. So actually what I might want to do is, let me grab the sky. Sorry, it's on my second monitor. Yeah, I don't know which one is going to be good. I kind of like that. Something like that. Actually, it's not rasterized yet. Okay, just going to make a selection again around the sky. But now I'm just going to use color range, and I'm just going to select the sky that way. And then add the selection here. So as you can see, there's a couple areas here where it, but actually did pretty decent job. If you want, you can just manually select these areas, fill with black, and kind of fix it that way. You can unlink the mask and the sky. We can kind of move around and see what kind of looks decent. Actually, I think I kind of like that. Okay. And as usual, I like to add my curves. Okay, so that's the sky. Let's group here. Again, what we might do is just increase the brightness here a little bit on the inside. Yeah, to be honest, I think that's about it. I'm not too picky. That looks decent enough. Let's save that. Let me see if I can open another one here. Let's do one more. That's already 1 o'clock here. I've been spending a little bit of time trying to edit the podcast I did with I Am Peter. That's going to come along at some point. But with our first podcast was it was quite quite a long one. We have lots of material to go through, or rather I do have a lot of material to go through. But yeah, I'm basically trying to make it somewhat a good listening experience. So I need to remove quite a few bits and pieces from there, and it takes time. But it was decent enough and definitely gave us a bit of ideas for our future podcasts. Definitely a little bit shorter, which should be much more manageable for both of us, actually. Okay, basically I've shot a flash here in the kitchen. The kitchen wasn't too big, so I'm literally just off the camera. I actually thought, I think it was 1 half power on my AD200 Pro, and I thought that's gonna be way too much for the kitchen, because the kitchen was fairly small in there, but it actually worked pretty well. Okay, we've got our base. Let's see, darken first. I kind of like the lighter couch, but there's a little bit too much, to be honest. So just gonna dab here a little bit, and then let's add our base frame. Let's see. I need to brighten this up. So you can see I was in a hurry and I didn't really have much time to make changes to the power that much. The owner had stuff to do, so I had to be fairly fast there. But it just proves you don't have to be perfect. You can fix quite a bit of stuff later on without losing too much or compromising too much on the quality. Just going to run color range on the ceiling. Yeah, actually the kitchen hood extractor, whatever, I think I'm gonna remove as well. So, okay. So group it, put a black mask. Let's do a quick selection around the ceiling. Also, if you do rough selection around your ceiling, you can also add curves or brightness or whatever, and you can, if you want, you can brighten it up a little bit as well. Kind of makes the whole room feel much brighter. Looking at the color, there's few little areas here. Again, it's just because the room is a little bit bigger. Obviously, there's a wooden floor that reflects a lot of stuff. We have colored walls, and then we're shooting a flash that might cover well close to the flash itself, but the further areas are not as affected. They become darker, and that's where the color starts shifting. So that's where you kind of need to work on some of those areas sometimes. I'm not going to bother too much about making borders right now. I'm just gonna get the color of the wall. I'm going to try paint in very, very roughly. See if we can make it without ruining the image too much. Okay. See, it didn't need much, but there is a difference before and after. Before and after, I think there's a little bit of a spot here that needs to be let's descend. We've got fixes. And I know the owner said he needs to repaint, but I think there's part of a sensor dust here, which is a little bit annoying to me because I've cleaned my sensor not that long ago. But I did change lenses a few times recently, outside as well. I try to shield it as much as possible, but it seems it just catches it like crazy. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I really took a frame that I can use for the window. So I might go back to Lightroom. Let's see, I think it's this shot here. So this is the darkest one. Let's see what we can get out of it. I'm going to create a virtual copy. Ah, no wonder. It hasn't even any, it doesn't have actually any adjustments. I wonder about other files. Yeah, it looks like the dark one didn't get any adjustments. Which just proves sometimes you can fix images in post, even with all the odds stacked against you. Right, we definitely need to adjust the temperature. Something a little bit brighter. So we have quite a few areas in the sky that have been obviously blown out. Not a big deal. We're going to replace the sky. So let's open that in Photoshop. And let's paste it into 907. Okay. All right, I'm going to move that to the top. Okay, the black mask, and right, let's use a pen tool for this. I am getting tired. I wish I knew a couple of jokes I could tell you while I'm doing this very boring window cutting. But unfortunately I don't. Maybe you can tell me a joke. looks like that's it, I think, for the windows. All right, let's make a selection. Always add curves, just in case. Sure, what is this red color here? But I'm gonna go to color. Copy that bluish steel and just get rid of that. All right. Tomorrow I've got another busy day. I think at the moment I've got 3 appointments booked. Right, let's run this sky swap, see if we can get it. All right, need to. I probably should really do very gentle curves to start with for the action. Right, let's place a sky. Pretty not sure. Let me try and use something different. Maybe this one. Oops. Let's unlink that. All right, I think that looks better. But it's way too dark, way too dark. Just gonna clip curves. And let's see if we can add hue saturation. Let's see if we can maybe drop it -5 looks okay-ish, I guess. But let's make sure it's clipped and go back to blues -3. Oops. Let's group that and maybe we drop the opacity a little bit to blend it with the original sky. Yeah, I think that's all right. So this is the sky. All right, London Red Bus here. Okay, let me group that. Let's add brightness, contrast, and see. So what I'm going to do, let's invert the mask. I'm just going to paint it kind of where it needs it. Okay, that is decent. Let's add another layer. I'm just going to remove these. Yeah, I think we're done here. Let's flatten and save. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it for the time being. Yeah, I think I'm going to go and sleep. I need to have a little bit of a sleep before appointments tomorrow. So thank you for checking out the stream. I've got some videos in the pipeline. It's difficult for me to work on them right now, but someone did ask if I can shoot or show how I shoot on site. So I actually recorded something, but it is quite a long, and there's quite a lot of material to go through. So I've recorded myself on the shoot and then editing those photographs. So that's going to come at some point. And then I've got a few other ideas as well. Also, soon enough, I want to do a stream where I'm going to edit a photo in 3 different styles. What I try and do when I have time, if I'm in a vacant property, and if it's a nice property, although not always, because a lot of times I just take different frames just to practice. But what I'm trying to do is basically I'll shoot something in natural light. So typically lights off normally. I might take separate ambient frames with lights on to add them on later on. But general idea is to shoot natural light only and do an edit. Then an edit for Flambient. So Flambient for real estate. So what I mean by that is basically blast everything with light. And then third style is more of a moody style. So I'll typically drop my shutter speed or make it faster. And shoot with my AD600, probably have a grid, take a main frame and then light up a few different areas and try and create some form of a mood. So I've been kind of experimenting with that and I kind of like it. So I want to do a stream where I edit kind of one photo in that style. And I think on one of my streams, one of the first streams, must have been maybe second or third one at the most, I did a apartment where I did Flambient shoot, but one of the bedrooms there I've shot in 3 different styles. And in this particular situation, I was also able to shoot from outside through the window to create a little bit of a fake light coming through the window. So I think that might work pretty decent for the edit. So that's going to come at some point, and I probably want to do it really on like a live stream. So come with that like totally unprepared, see what I can figure out and see where it goes. Right, in any case, guys, thanks for checking out the stream. If you enjoyed, please like the video. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. More than happy to explain my process. Right now, my Photoshop is a little bit of a mess. As you've seen, a lot of my actions, I think right now need a refinement. So I want to get these sorted and make them available maybe for you to download as well, if you want. And yeah, thanks again. Have a good evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, Gaston. I just saw your comment about using the tablet. So yeah, definitely I can make a video. Actually, funnily enough, I was thinking about today for one of the videos, maybe not live stream, but one of the videos, because I bought a little OBS bot camera just so I can use without setting too much with my main camera. So this is something I use basically for quick streams. But now that I'll have that extra camera, I'm probably planning to shoot a video where I do editing and show kind of how I use pen. Yeah, it's kind of topic in its own, but if you've done any drawing, it kind of it's yeah, it's it feels very natural. But you need a little bit of getting used to it because you don't write on the screen. You you write on the tablet where it kind of translates to your screen. And actually, the way I use it, because I have two screens, my tablet is kind of divided into two parts in a way, where one part is available for right screen and then the left side for the left screen. But anyway, what I was saying is I'm planning to do a video where my little tiny camera would be looking down at the tablet as I work, and then the main camera at me, and then obviously a screen share. So yeah, that's something I thought about, but yeah, definitely will do a video for that. Right, it's really late for me here, so time for me to go. Thanks for checking out. See you later, guys. Have a good one. Good night.